It was like difficult for me to switch my brain to rely on someone. But I think to rely on someone is also a very scary thing to do.
I agree.
Because you're releasing a little bit of your own power.
Hey everyone, welcome back to BULGOGI Pod. I'm Hannah, and I'm here today with my friend Jenny.
Yay!
Okay, but I was gonna say, after our dinner, it was like one of those times where like I came back to my apartment and I was like, I feel so fulfilled.
Yay!
Do you know what I mean? Like when you like,
I do, yeah.
like, okay, some people love them, love their energy, but then like sometimes there's just like no vibe. But like whenever I'm with you, I'm like vibes, just like oozing.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think it was kind of what we were talking about, how I've been trying to go out with a lot more of like my other friends versus like my core group of friends in general. But it's kind of so wholesome and just nice to catch up.
No, yeah, it is.
And have dinner and not like go party or do something crazy and talk about like just life and what you've been up to for the past like 5-10 years.
Yeah.
And so that was really fulfilling for me too, because I haven't talked to you in I don't even know how long.
At least a couple years, right?
Yeah, like before COVID. And so that was really cool to just catch up with you.
Yeah.
I mean, we were saying this a little bit while we were having dinner the other day too, but my core group of friends, I feel like I know them and I know them obviously not like fully 100%, but I have a good idea of like who they are, what they do and what they enjoy versus seeing other people that I was really close to and then getting back into that rhythm of like, wow, I just got to know so much about you. And it was like filling, like my heart feels full. It was really interesting. So it was really cool just seeing people and meeting people. But that's interesting.
Yeah. But yeah, I guess just a little bit of background about you. My first question isn't, what do you do for work?
Yourself. Oh, you're like, no, if you tell me about yourself.
Yeah. But tell me about yourself.
Oh my God, I don't even know where to start. I'm Jenny. Nice to meet you. Hey. Everybody, hello, BULGOGI Pod. I feel like I'm such a career-oriented person, so maybe I'll just talk about like my career in general. But I come from an immigrant family. I'm an immigrant myself. I just recently got my citizenship. So my name is Genevieve now.
Oh, it's like legally
like
Genevieve.
legally Genevieve, which is insane.
I love that name.
I didn't want to be Jennifer because my mom's Jennifer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Genevieve is very different.
So cute.
Literally crazy. But they have a sushi restaurant, and that's kind of how I like started dipping my toes into hospitality is my dad isn't very good at English. And so getting him with like the licensing and like the HR aspect of things and training people in general was really difficult for me because I was like in high school back then. But that's kind of like where I started dipping my toes. And then I had like this dream in high school to like expand his sushi restaurant. And my dad was like, why would you do that? Like one shop is enough. Oh. And so he was like, you cannot do multiple shops. Yeah. But then once I started going to Cal Poly Pomona and like getting into hospitality, I realized that restaurants isn't like the only thing that you have to do. Like there's tourism. So for example, like airplanes, airports, clubs, like country clubs and business clubs and all that stuff was really, really cool. And so I kind of like dipped my toes in every single sector, which is really cool. But now I manage at a restaurant, so that's really cool.
Oh yeah. And you seem like when we spoke, like you seem to like really like be thriving. Like I feel like just in our conversation I was like, oh, I feel the passion.
Oh, I know. I think, and this is kind of like what I say to people during my interviews, because I think a lot of the times people think you're literally crazy if you want to work in hospitality.
Oh, really?
Because it's so draining in general. It's very taxing.
Yes, chef.
Work-life balance. If everyone has watched The Bear, like you will literally feel it. Oh, God. But it is very fulfilling because I think you're making a difference in people that you're working with, like their lives. And then also people can easily just choose to either cook at home or go to another restaurant, but they chose to come to like your restaurant. And to make that experience like slightly better, or like have someone come in super hangry and change them into like the best guest in the entire world, and they're like, I'm gonna come back, and they do, like that's like a really good feeling.
Oh wow.
Yeah. But I think I like operations and managing people in general. So that's really cool.
Right. Because I mean, like, you were the first person to introduce me to Mel Robbins literally years ago.
Throwback.
Yeah. 5-second rule changed my life. And then she's been popping up recently.
Right.
With like the whole like let them stuff.
Yes.
Like if somebody doesn't want to be in a relationship with you, let them.
Yeah.
Like if somebody is treating you a certain way, it's just like let them. Like don't get so worked up about it. And so I know you spent like a lot of time like outside of work and stuff, like kind of researching people and psychology.
Literally. So what I kind of did during COVID, I think it helped me, and I know like COVID was horrible, like literally for everybody in the entire world. But I think it also helped me take like 10 steps back to say like, hey, you need to take a break. You need to take a break, you need to rest, and you need to just rejuvenate, because I was going at such a fast pace and I didn't realize that I was like burning out.
Oh, right.
Because I was going so fast.
Yeah.
Like my body was telling me that I needed to relax. But then within that time, I was just kind of antsy, you know? And so a lot of the times I would go on hikes or just like do side projects, side quests or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
And be listening to podcasts. A lot of it had to do with how I built this with like Guy Raz, seeing how entrepreneurs and everyone, their mindset, their mentality, and like how hard it is, you know, to build things. But also there's like this other podcast called The Restaurant Prosperity Formula. I think that's what it's called. I originally got into it because I was interviewing for like 10,000 jobs at the time. And I was like, I want to make sure that I'm fully equipped with like what I need to know. Like people always say like, oh, resources, like I don't have the resources to be able to thrive, but I feel like the resources are literally understanding how to be aware of things.
Ooh.
I think that's a big one, because like people are like, how do you be a good manager? I'm like, you just be a good person. That's really what it is, and be understanding and like really fully see the full scope of whatever situation is happening. But I feel like the podcast taught me how to do that. Like it put into words how to do that. Like, I don't know, personality test, for example, is a really good example of like putting things into words of how to interact with different types of personalities.
Okay.
In a lot of workplaces, we use the DISC. It's called DISC, D-I-S-C.
What is that?
So there's like 4 categories. There's like dominant, which is the D. I is it's like extroverted and very people pleasing. The C is kind of like the support, like you're always there to be the constant in the support. And then S is very interesting, but it's very like people that are logical, like they need like lists and everything. And so in a workplace environment, it's really cool to use those when you're interacting with people. Because I'm like a dominant person. I was like in the D category, and all of my managers, I had this in my head where I was like, I want to make sure that I hire managers that are different from me. But I didn't realize they were literally opposite spectrums of like what I am. So sometimes I have a difficult time communicating with them.
Right, because it's just like not how you think.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so it taught me how to like change the way that I word things, so that I can have them feel supported, but also have them buy into like what my plans are.
Oh yeah.
So it's very interesting.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't know.
Also, I feel like, you know, they always say like managers are never taught how to manage people. Like they just know how to do the task. And so I think going above and beyond, like actually learning how people like best take in information is like
the best thing.
Dude, that's like life changing. Because I mean, even when we went out, right, to like we got dinner, and like you knew some people who were working at the restaurant, and I could just tell from the interactions like how like how much respect they have for you. And I think like you know, it's because you put in the work. Like it's not just like, oh, like Jenny's cool. Like
I think I appreciate people a lot. I feel like in general I appreciate people a lot, but sometimes when you're in hospitality, you forget that people are people. Like people are literally human beings, and they're not just like a body, right? Like they're not here to just do a task, but they're here to do a task, but also they're trying to make money to support their family or like schooling or whatever it is. Like there's so many other factors aside from just their job that makes them who they are. Yeah. And a lot of the times managers forget that part
Right.
And are like, okay, you're sad, like next. And
Right.
I'm like, whoa, pause.
Like, oh,
yeah,
what are we working?
yeah.
What are we working with? Yeah.
So it's, yeah, I think just being a good person is just
Yeah.
like, very.
And, you know, in talking about like people and relationships, another thing that was brought up during dinner was you and your boyfriend's relationship. Yes.
Oh my God, crazy.
You and Matt, how long have you guys been dating?
We've been dating for 5 years now.
Dude.
Yeah, literally crazy. But 3 years of it was long distance. So he used to live in Texas because he was in the military. And then I was still in college. And then this is the first like 2 years where we're like together.
Oh, yeah, because I like
24/7. It's crazy. It's like too much.
Wait, how was the transition? Like, I mean, like, right, you were doing LDR for like 3 years.
Right.
And so did you get used to like having like an independent lifestyle?
Kind of. Yeah, I think I had to adjust. And I think he did too, obviously, because he's coming back. But every single time during long distance, we would hang out and it would feel like this crazy scene out of like a movie, right? Because we always plan our dates and we're saying, oh, we only have like X amount of days together, so we have to make the most of it. And so we would do all these crazy activities.
Oh, yeah.
But then now it's like getting back into the habit of like the day-to-day normal things. Which I was so independent. It was really difficult for me to like let go of some of my tasks. Like he'd be like, oh, I'm gonna do laundry for you. And I was like, don't touch my stuff. You know, like it was kind of weird. I'm like, don't touch my stuff. Or like, oh, I can walk your dog for you. And I'm like, but why? That's not your dog.
Right.
But then it was like difficult for me to switch my brain to rely on someone. But I think to rely on someone is also a very scary thing to do.
I agree.
Because you're releasing a little bit of your own like power or like your own will to be able to do your own things. And so having someone else do it for you is very difficult. But now I feel like I'm getting too used to it. I'm like, why don't you walk my dog? And I'm like,
spoiled.
Why don't you do my laundry this time?
Oh my gosh.
So yeah,
I think I'm like the same way. Like I'm very independent in my relationships. Like if I took the disc test, like I think I'm like more like people pleasy because like especially just like in relationships, I think it's a lot of like, oh, I don't want to feel like a burden.
Yeah.
I don't know like if it's a control thing or like I just feel bad, but it's probably just a combination of
I
the
think
two.
so. And I think, because I know you're the oldest child, and it's a very oldest child thing to be able to be like, no, I got it. Like, I can do it. No, it's okay.
No, like,
what do you have questions with? Like, tell me.
Yeah,
like,
I'll help you. I'll help you.
Let me help you.
Yeah.
And so I feel like, because Matt is also an oldest child.
Oh.
And so he's very, like, motherly in a sense, where he's like, oh, let me cook and let me clean and let me do all these things. But I'm like, no, but, like, I can do that. Like, I know how to do
You guys are just fighting over responsibilities.
But in the beginning, it would be like, I would feel bad because I would feel like a burden. And then it transitioned into like, well, I can do that too. You know, like, I can do that too. And then we had to like,
capable.
No, literally, we had to have a conversation of him saying, I'm not trying to penetrate myself through your life, but more so actually help you and compliment you and help you with your day-to-day activities, because it is very tasking, like my job or whatever.
Right.
And so that was really interesting.
Was that something like he brought up first? Like how did the conversation
He did,
like,
yeah.
come about?
Because I would get so annoyed about him like trying to help, and that's such a weird thing to say, but I would get so annoyed of him trying to help and like move things around, and like if it's not organized the way that I wanted it to, then I'd be like, what, you know, like what's going on?
What are we doing? Yeah. I could have just done it.
And so he was like, oh, you should have just told me, you know?
Oh.
And I was like, oh my God, I'm literally a control freak.
Oh, but like it's like you don't know anything else.
Right. And so now he kind of is, we're a lot better, but he's the one who brought it up. He was like, I'm just trying to help you. If you really don't want me to touch your stuff, then I understand, but I think sometimes it's okay if you don't have to do everything by yourself.
Right.
Like that's what he said, and I was like, oh, you are so right.
Oh.
And so little by little I felt like more comfortable, like, oh, can you help me with my car? Can you like run some errands for me? Or like I have a list of groceries that I need to buy.
Like if you have time.
If you have time, but
yeah.
I still say sorry every single time. Like even to this day where I'm like, I'm sorry, can you just pick this up for me? Or yeah, but he loves it, I think.
Okay.
I think he enjoys it.
Wait, yeah, because I mean, like
he's like, yeah, no worries.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I feel like he's happy. He's like
happy to just help me.
Yeah. Like do you know if Access Service is his like?
Yeah, Access Service is his like number one. And for me, it's quality time.
Oh.
So sometimes we're like, sometimes he's helping me with something and I'll still say like, oh, we're not spending any time together.
Well, because you're like focused on
exactly
whatever task you're trying to get done.
Yes. So even when we're like watching a movie or something, I'll feel very like quality timey.
Oh.
So I tried to like plan out movie days once a day, and he was the one that brought this up, but he was like, oh, since your love language is quality time, we should like before we sleep or like say goodbye or whatever, we should ask each other like a question or two to like learn more about each other. And it's crazy because we've been dating for 5 years and he'll be like, what's your favorite color? And I'm like, I have never told you my favorite color. It's crazy.
Oh,
so like we
so crazy.
like talk about, or what's your favorite movie, you know, like things like that. So
yeah,
very like basic questions, but it's like, just cool. Yeah,
like,
to
adds to the whole picture.
Adds to the whole picture. Yeah.
Because I think like like when you're dating for that long, like it's like the little stuff that kind of gets not overlooked, but it's just like, oh, like I want to know like the deep things about you.
Exactly.
And so at a certain point, I'm sure it's like, oh wait, I don't even know these.
Like smaller details about you,
yeah.
and then we're just like, oh, interesting.
Whoa. But, okay, so like when he had moved back and like you guys like stopped doing like long distance, like do you still feel like you're going through that transition period, or do you think like you guys are like pretty adjusted at this point? Because it's been like 2 years?
Yeah, I feel like we're probably still transitioning, because I mean I love like my alone time. I feel like we're constantly transitioning or adapting to each other, I guess. But before I would be like, oh, you should maybe go home and like spend time with your family. Because I was like, I need like my own space. Right. But nowadays I'm like, where are you going? Like I thought we were gonna hang out here. Yeah. Like I don't know. And so I listened to another like podcast recently where this is like kind of the same topic, but on the side, about relationships. It's like never 50-50. Like it's never like you're 50-50 all the way there. But I feel like sometimes it could be like 70-30 or like 60-40. For example, there are times when like Matt probably puts in a lot more effort than I do, where he's like at an 80 and I'm at a 20 because I'm exhausted from my own personal life or like my work life or whatever it is.
Right.
And there are days when he comes home from work and he's like at a 60 and I'm at a 40. Or no, yeah, I'm at a 60 and he's at a 40 and he's like exhausted. But I'm like, what can I do for you? And I feel like it's a constant like back and forth thing to get to 100, I guess, for both of us. But we are always switching off, I think.
Yeah.
And that's the transition.
Yeah.
Of learning that. But
no, that totally makes sense. Because I think like, right, like in a partnership or relationship, like you're trying to like fill the gaps
exactly
for, like where you can and where like you have the capacity to do so.
I agree. And I think a really big thing in relationships as well is like someone should be a compliment in your life versus a like filling a hole kind of thing.
Oh.
Because I feel like nowadays cuffing season or whatever, everyone is just like, oh my god, like I have to be in a relationship, or like everyone's in a relationship, and so I feel sad. But I feel like sometimes they have to just be like a compliment and not disrupt like your day-to-day routine.
Totally makes sense.
Or like support you in like what you're doing. This is so sad that I'm saying this like out loud, because I'm like, these are things that should obviously be a thing. But
no, but like I think we forget.
Yeah, like someone who's there to support you and 100% like be by your side. Because I feel like Matt's someone who does that for me. Like even I think of all these crazy projects and I'm like, I'm gonna do this. Like I'm gonna do a pop-up dinner and I'm gonna make cocktails and like I have all these things that I want to do. And he's just like, no, yeah, like you should go for that.
I love that.
And then later on, I'm like, no, I think I'm kind of crazy.
Like,
and he was like, but it's okay. Idea. Like, you should still do it. But he wholeheartedly believes that I can do anything. Like, he's just like, no, like, you should do that. Like, that's a good one.
I love
I'm just
that.
like, wow.
Yeah, because I think, like, I mean, right, a lot of times I'm like, oh, like, simping, whatever. Like, there are a lot of like times when I'm like, I really want to be in a relationship. I really want to feel supported like you do in your relationship. Right. But the thing is like, I think I'm working on feeling like a whole person first, because otherwise I feel like I'm like searching for something, and it's when I do find like, you know, someone who maybe does like check all the boxes and whatever, they won't actually like fill the quote hole, because that's like something within myself I have to deal with first.
I agree.
You know?
And I feel like you won't really know what that compliment looks like until you like just continue to go out and meet people. And this is something that like my aunt said a long time ago when I first started college. She was like, yeah, meet a lot of boys, date a lot of boys, like go on a lot of dates. And I was like, she's crazy. Like my aunt is crazy. But I was thinking back at it, and I asked her like during the Korea trip that I recently went to, I was like, why did you say that?
Right.
Like I didn't really understand. And she's like, oh, well, it's because for you to find someone that you really like, you have to really meet so many people to figure out like different qualities that stick with you. And like, not that you're like picking and choosing, but also like, oh, I don't think that works for me, you know, and setting your own boundaries too.
Right.
Which I thought was really interesting. I was like, oh, you were onto something.
Yeah, dude, honestly, all the advice that like I get from like my aunts, I'm like, oh, it's because like you were here once.
Right.
You know, I'm like, oh my God, you actually know what's up.
Yeah. Because we think they're superhuman or something.
Oh yeah. But speaking of, I guess, superhumans, you know, you talked a little bit about how you've had to like train your boyfriend, as you guys are like spending more time together, and he's like doing things
how to train your boyfriend.
And so I guess, do you have any advice for the girlies on
my God.
Or I guess even just like sharing like your perspective on like why you think this is necessary?
I think for boys like Matt, I mean not like Matt, but like boys in general maybe, Korean American men maybe, I don't know, like they grow up very differently from like Korean American women. I think that's a very like specific thing, because for example, like for myself, the women in my family have always been like, hey, can you help me with dishes? Can you please help me with laundry? Can you please clean this for me? Can you walk the dog? Or can you like make sure that these people are fed? Or these specific tasks that are very like genderized in a sense. And then there's the boy side where they're like, oh, 많이 먹었어, did you eat a lot, like did you do this, are you gonna do sports, and like those kind of exactly. And so I was kind of discussing this in a sense with like the girls, with like the girlfriends, and I was telling, they were like, oh, like my boyfriend doesn't know how to do any dishes, or they don't know how to do laundry properly, and they don't know how to fold things properly or whatever. But I literally was saying like they probably in their lifetime never had to do that. Or if they did, like in a very minimal sense.
Right.
Like maybe college, you know? Like
Right.
And so the way that you do things may not necessarily translate to them because they think they're doing a really great job. Right. But the way that we were taught, right? Our moms are probably like, why are you doing it like that?
Like very specific.
Come
like,
on.
This is how you fold a fitted sheet.
I know. Like, why is the dishwasher organized like that? Like literally my mom said that to me before.
Oh, dude. No, literally same. Yeah.
And so how to train your boyfriend is to very politely tell them that they're doing it wrong. Oh. Because I think, for example, I like organize my like dressers a very specific way. Like I fold it and then I put it as if like they're like bookshelves like in between instead of like stacking them on top of each other.
Right.
But he would do laundry all the time, but he just didn't like register that I didn't do it like stacking. He would just stack it on top of like the clothes that were sideways. And so I had to be like, hey, like I don't know if you've noticed the past like 5 times that you've done laundry, but I actually fold my clothes and like put it in between. But like I had to say it like that. Oh. Because back then I would be like, why would you do it like that? But he was like, what are you talking about? Like, I don't know what I did wrong. Oh, right. And the saddest part about that too is that the way that I approached him was so aggressive that he felt like he was disappointing me. And so what happened was like, it created like this air of frustration and where he wouldn't want to talk to me or like he wouldn't want to ask for help. And like, it created like the super negative vibe for a couple of months.
Yeah.
But then I was like, you know what? I'm going to switch it up because I think he genuinely just doesn't know.
Right.
But I think a lot of people just don't know. And that comes back to like communicating with your boyfriend.
Yeah. No, for
but the way that I trained my boyfriend with laundry is I literally labeled everything in I was like socks, underwears, bras. I labeled it because like he kept putting things in the wrong place.
Right. And it's like,
and he was like, oh my God, there's like labels. And then in my head, I was like, it's because you literally were putting things in the wrong place. I didn't say it out loud.
Right.
But I was like, oh, I like did that for you so that you can put things in the right place. And he was like, that's so nice. That's so nice of you to do that.
dude, you're so thoughtful. So
You're so thoughtful. And so I was like, interesting how that translated like that.
Right.
But that's how you train your boyfriend.
Well,
You just have to let them like make sure that they don't know that they're being trained.
Right. Like you have to be a little sneaky with it.
Yeah.
But then also it's like, I think, right, maybe the first way that you had approached him being like, why are you doing it like that?
Yeah.
It's because like, dude, that's how my mom talked to me.
Exactly.
You know?
They'd be like, what? And then like, for example, if you can't find something, they would get frustrated and then they'd be like, it's right here or something. Like that would always happen to me. But yeah, my mom, especially with like the dish rack thing.
Because like if you can't fit everything, dude,
literally
it's a mess.
But my mom would put like cups on one side and then like the bowls on one side and then the plates on one side, which makes sense. But then when I was little, I would just think that they would all go together.
Exactly.
And she's like, I can't find anything. And I'm like, it's literally in front of you.
It's right there.
It's just not organized properly the way that you want it.
Yeah. I mean, like, no, I like will forever remember how to wash and cut and
exactly.
Because like I yelled at, dude. You're supposed to keep it in the bag and then you cut like literally a third off and then you have to swish the water after you cut it in the bag. That's how my mom does it.
I did not know that.
Oh yeah, so that's how she does it. And I was like,
Interesting.
okay, and so it like makes sense.
Kind of smart though. Yeah,
that
makes total
that's
sense.
like big brained.
I'm like efficient.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and so I like understand.
Yeah.
And like it seems like you like take on that like same perspective that you do like at work of like
yes. Yeah.
almost like putting yourself in their shoes and being like, oh
yeah.
Like maybe you just don't know how to do this. Maybe you were never taught.
Yeah.
Or maybe there's something else going on that like is affecting
how
you're doing laundry.
Exactly. Literally. Or how you're putting the dish rack. Now going back to the dish rack.
Yeah.
I think everyone, like we call it filters when like your filter of life is different. Your view on life or that water bottle, for example, is very different from like my view because we have very different backgrounds. But I think the part about why I love also being a manager is like being able to educate them in like a gentle manner instead of being like, you're wrong.
Right.
Like you should not be saying that. You should not be doing this, doing that. But like, I guess sometimes, I mean, not I guess, but in their lives, stuff that they would say would be like, that's okay to say out loud or like, that's inappropriate, but I don't know. But I feel like that is a really big thing too, is just like gently how to tell people that they're right or wrong.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
And educating them in that way.
Yeah. No, that's true. I have been thinking about more recently how like, I think I like hold people to a certain expectation because like, that's what I would do.
Exactly.
In their situation. But reminding myself like, oh, not everyone is going to come from the same exact perspective as I do.
Yeah.
And so,
because a lot of times when I do have like those kinds of conversations where I'm like, I don't think you should be saying that, or like, that like probably wasn't appropriate. And they're like, oh, I didn't know. And I'm just like, yeah.
Now you do.
Now you do.
No, you do.
But like that is mind blowing to me because I think a lot of the times people just really don't know.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
The people that do know, that's a problem.
Right. But like, I hope that if you don't know and like you say something, let's say not appropriate, I'm like, oh, okay. Like, let's like educate you and like everyone be open-minded.
Like, yeah. I agree.
Besides like laundry and whatnot, are there other things that like you've like trained Matt in? Or do you think that he's trained you in ways?
Yeah. I think he has trained me into like, and people talk about like feminine energy a lot of times. I feel like, and like masculine energy, I feel like I can be very like feminine around him. Because I was very like oldest child, like tough, and my job as a manager or whatever it is. So I would always be like on edge in a sense, because I have to like do things, or I have to constantly be like busy. But he's just like, no, it's okay. Like, you can relax. It's okay to like just not do anything. I remember on my days off, I would be like anxious.
Right.
Because I'm like, what do I do? Like, I need another project, or I have to do something. And he was like, no, it's okay sometimes to just like not do things. Like, that's fine.
Oh my gosh,
but in that sense, I was like, what do you mean?
Oh.
but now I'm just like, it does make sense, because that's how you burn out, you know?
Right. Like, you need rest. Right. But like, we forget that all the time, for sure.
And I think going back to the whole communication thing, I think he's the one who probably taught me the most about how to communicate, because we're such opposites. Oh. Like, for me, I'm very blunt and honest and like very straightforward. But he is like kind of the opposite of me. And maybe that's just like in our relationship, because I'm sure he's like different from our relationship in general. But like, he was like, oh, can you be nicer when you say that? Or like, can you be a little bit more like not aggressive?
Right.
And then I'm like, oh wow, that like really sounded aggressive, but I didn't mean it that way.
Oh.
Yeah. So communication, I think he's taught me how to communicate very well.
Also, like, I feel like it's a very natural response, like when you get feedback, to like be defensive.
Yeah.
And so I think on your part too, like,
yeah,
you've done, it seems like you've done a great job in being like, oh, yeah, like, let me actually like reflect.
I've like tried to do that, I think. So, and this is something that we do in fights, which we don't fight often, but when we do, it's just very like heated.
Right.
And I think we have decided, and I think this is it was difficult for us, because we would just be like us versus us. Like, it would just be me versus him. But we keep reminding ourselves, like, I'm not trying to fight you. Like, it's not like I'm trying to be aggressive towards you or be malicious towards you, which I think we forget in the heat of the moment. But it's about like finding a solution that works for both of us.
Right.
And so that was really interesting. When it gets really heated, I most of the time tell him like, I need 10 minutes to relax. Like, I need 10 minutes where we're not talking and we're just not in the same room.
Oh.
Because if I start speaking like from whatever I'm feeling right now, this conversation is not going to go well.
Right, like, I'm going to be mean.
I'm about to ruin your life. And I literally tell him that. He's like, but he's the type where he's like, I need to talk now. Like, we need to do this now. And I'm like, nope, you have to respect my boundaries. Right. Because I literally will be saying something that I don't mean, but try to ruin your life.
Right.
So give me 10 minutes. Let me rethink about everything that I just said. And we'll recap, you know?
Right. Like, this is for your own good. Like, you trust me.
I'm like, come on.
Yeah.
But yeah, communication for sure is like a huge one that I think he's taught me.
But yeah, I guess like in terms of like, you know, kind of concluding the episode, you know, we talked a lot about like people, relationships. Is there any like advice you would give to people who maybe they're like managing their own team or like want to head that direction? Like, any advice that you have for them, or maybe even resources? Yeah,
I feel like this is kind of how I found my resources. Is LinkedIn is a great tool, number one. I would literally send out like 50 messages to people.
Oh shit.
And be
She's
like,
on top of it.
Hey, I just want to do, I call it like coffee chats, because back then I was in like a business fraternity and we would call them coffee chats, right? Where you're meeting one-on-one with someone and just getting to know them. But I'd be like, are you down for like an hour coffee chat? What day works for you? And so I was like booking all these like one-on-one little meetups, and just picking at someone's brain is really interesting. And I think that's like the best advice ever to give anyone, is the resources are literally at your fingertips, especially because like technology nowadays. But researching what you're trying to do, like there's so many templates out there of like what you're looking for, how to price it out, but also just picking someone's brain is the best part.
Yeah.
Because someone's experience could look different from like another person's experience. And so in that sense, like you have more quote unquote like tools and resources and ideas that kind of flow in with you. Managing people advice is just be a good person.
I like that.
Like, be a good human being, I think.
Yeah.
Like, remember that other people are human beings and they have feelings and lives.
Yeah, for sure.
But aside from that,
Yeah, go and train your boyfriends.
go train your boyfriends.
Yeah, let them
Go do one-on-ones with people.
Yeah, I like that.
Label your stuff for your boyfriend.
Dude, literally I'm like, oh, I need you to come to my house and organize my closet.
No, okay, so the other day too, though, I was like, hey, can you get groceries for me? And I sent him a list, but it was like very like vague, right? It was like, oh, I need like eggs and I need this and I need this. But he got like very like off-branded things that were just like, I've never heard of.
Oh.
And he was like, I don't think I can like live without you. Like, I don't know how to function properly. Cause he was like, I was at the market and I was stressed. Like, he was like, I was stressed because you gave me like
Such a general list.
milk, but I didn't know what kind. And like,
Dude,
you said coffee, but I didn't know if you wanted grounded or beans or like what instant. Like, I didn't know what you wanted.
Dude, that reminds me of me. I like went to the Korean market, right? And my roommates were like, oh, can you get miso? Dude, I stood in the miso aisle for like literally
what
20 minutes. And I was on my phone just doing research. And I was like, there's 40 options.
Yeah, literally.
And so I ended up choosing one. And I texted them. I'm like, okay, I chose this one. It took me 20 minutes. Like, I almost died choosing the miso. And she goes, that's not the one I would have chosen. And I was like, I'm going to go back.
And that's kind of what I used to say to Matt. But nowadays I'm like, thank you so much for the effort. And I really appreciate that. Yeah.
I love that. Words of affirmation.
Right.
You need it. You need it.
So during my pre-shifts, sorry, I know we're
no, keep going. No, I want to hear.
So in restaurants, you have these small little meetings called pre-shifts, right? It's right before your shift. It's to kind of pump up your team, to make sure they're like ready to go for their shift. They're like thriving.
Oh, I love
and you're
that.
giving them like very vital information, whether it's like, do we have events today? Or are we out of anything? Are we doing something special? Do we have a special cocktail? Whatever. The ending line of my pre-shift is comments, questions, concerns, or words of affirmation. And I have been doing that for like the 2 years that I've worked there, and they always finish my sentence. They're like, words of affirmation. And then when I don't say words of affirmation, they're like, where was the words of affirmation today?
Wait,
like, I'm not feeling encouraged.
I'm not feeling encouraged at all. Wait, I love that.
And so it like very much pumps up your team. I think it boosts morale, so which is really good. But they're like, you didn't say that part today.
Yeah. They're like, Jenny, are you having an off day?
Right. Yeah. I'm like, oh, I didn't. I'm sorry. You guys can finish my sentence though.
Yeah.
So it was kind of nice. Yeah.
That's so cute. I love that. But yeah, be sure to check out Jenny's Instagram.
Yeah.
She just changed her username, so it's Genevieve Huh, and it's Jeneiv. Nope, I messed it up. Jeneveheo. Did I get it wrong?
It's so
again?
long. No, it's right.
Wait, also
but I'm listening and I'm like, that's really long.
Oh, but yeah, be sure to check her out, and then be sure to check out MODU Studio down in the show notes below, Mile Market as well, and then you guys can follow all of our socials. We're on TikTok, Instagram, Threads, Twitter. Okay. Yeah, we're on YouTube, just all the platforms. So be sure to like, comment, subscribe, answer the questions. But that's it for today.
Thank you for having me.
No, thank you for coming. This is amazing.
I know, this is fun.
It went by way faster.
It really did.
Because like I think Jenny needs to start her own podcast.
Oh my God, I don't know about that.
Yeah, I think that's what needs to happen.
Bye. Bye.